Hey, what's up? You're watching my favorite YouTube channel. I am Chill Monger. I'm joined by the ATL Blurred. I got Paul Oh, sorry. Can I say your name, or are you trying to hide your name?
No, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
And then we got Katt also. Katt, that's your name, right? Like you're literally a
Yeah.
feline. That's it. We're joined together to talk about a movie franchise, the Creed franchise. Now, if you were really interested in this franchise, me and Marc, the ATL Blurred, the two of us worked together on like a Creed 1 and a Creed 2 discussion about a year ago, and that is up there. It's right there. It's right. Point to the corner, Marc. It's right there. And if you already saw Creed 3 and you want to talk, oh, I thought you were pointing. I
I
thought
think
you
you were
were.
pointing too.
Coughing. Didn't want to cough into the mic.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Let's just begin with this movie review. So Paul just watched it. Give me your first like take on like the beginning of the movie when it starts off with the Naruto little poster in the background, right?
Yeah. I think that it grounds him as a character. I think it's like that's the idea, is to show you like a bit of more of his background, Adonias, that is. I think they insert like obviously a big brother kind of figure to him. I actually really like the start of the film. I think it shows like, where his humble beginnings are, I guess, like, and doing what kids do, sneak off to do things that their mothers may not agree with, going out and doing what he's passionate about, which is boxing, and in this case Damian fighting, for money or whatever. He's passionate about seeing Damian win, because I have that little sit down where he teases him about, that knockout, or the first round knockout or whatever, and he's like like you'll get him, like he gives him tips. He's like his trainer, but he's like he reaches long, so like wait for that, and then you'll have an opportunity to attack. So even then, it was showing that Creed had like the strategy of boxing like in his mind. Like that's what made him a great fighter as he grew up. It kind of shows that early in his childhood he was watching fights, and he kind of strategized how to beat other boxers by watching them or learning about their fighting styles. So I thought that was pretty cool.
It was great foreshadowing. Even seeing Duke back in that flashback scene.
Looking at him across disapprovingly, and he's like, and he just like, yeah, he just walks away. Yeah.
The flashback I didn't think was needed for a part 3 of like it's a sequel, right? We don't need flashback anymore. The flashback should be the first 2 movies we just all watched, but it was necessary to get Diamond Dame's character across. And he's got a catchphrase. He says checkmate right before he knocks you out, which is kind of cool. It's like pro wrestling, man. Katt, what do you think about the flashback scene that to begin with set the table? The actors were good, yeah.
Well, I think, yeah, I love when younger actors are good at portraying the character that they're going to be as the adult actor. I just always appreciate that about just youth and talent. But I really liked that they kind of made Adonis the underdog in the friendship when they were younger. Even though it wasn't like there was any hostility coming from Dame's character, it was just one of those, he's clearly Adonis's character as a teenager is clearly shorter. There's that complex thing about height. They kind of gave you that vibe that, oh, if you hadn't seen Creed 1 or Creed 2, and then they cut after he's punching Leon on the sidewalk, and it cuts to it being Adonis in the ring, to me, having not seen the first two, I was kind of like, well, I knew that was coming if I think about it. But in that moment, it was the smaller of the two kids is the one that ends up in the ring. So you can kind of get that underdog intimidation kind of vibe, even though there was no hostility from a young Dame to a young Adonis.
About Leon. Leon deserved. So Leon's the dude in the flashback who it's the whole reason why we are where we are, right? That's the incident that happened at the convenience store. Um Diamond Dame Anderson leaked that to his woman. What's Tessa's character? Bianca?
Yeah.
Bianca, he leaked that to her purposely, right? When he just dropped the name. Oh, okay, I'll tell you his name is Leon, but that's all I'm gonna tell you. Nah, if you were really trying to protect, you wouldn't have even gone further with giving the name Leon. You
He
notice
had the
that?
whole plan. He had the whole plan.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
trying to sow division in Adonis's house, so to speak.
Oh yeah. Adonis has been good. He just won the championship, beat up the dude from the first movie in the rematch. He's now the unified, undisputed heavyweight champion. It's complete. The journey that he's finished the story. He's made it to the top of the top. What a great callback, Marc.
Well, let me first start by saying that for Michael B. Jordan's first outing as a director, he did a spectacular job on this movie. I don't know if Coogler wrote the script or not. I just don't remember right now.
No, he
But
had something to do with the script. A character had to die to motivate the protagonist.
that seems
Yeah, Kugel is
that seems
a writer on the
overriding
script. Yeah.
with that particular writer. But Michael B. Jordan, as a first-time director and as an actor, did a very spectacular job to me. Um, in reference to Adonis's character and his wife and his friend coming out, I could tell from the very beginning that that was going to go in a bad direction. We knew that they had to set it up that way in order for them to come to blows, as they say in the actual movie. And I also, I don't know if you want to go there yet, but when
Go.
it led to him getting a title shot, I kind of suspected what that was going to be. And this movie has been out probably a year now,
Spoiler.
so it's okay. Yeah, to go ahead and give spoilers. But I kind of figured that Jonathan Major's character set up that other dude to be injured so he could come in and fight the title fight. I just saw that coming, even when I was watching in the theater. I'm like, I bet that that dude had something to do with Jonathan Major's character, and I was right. But what never made sense to me, and I wish they would have done this, was showing him having more fights instead of just coming out of jail and then immediately getting a title shot. I didn't agree with that. At least give him 4 or 5, make the movie a little bit longer, or give him 4 or 5 other fights. Because back in the day, boxers used to fight almost, if not every month, every couple of months. I came of age in the '80s where Mike Tyson was on Wild World of Sports like every month, boxing somebody, knocking them out in 30 seconds. So I would have loved to have seen something like that with Jonathan Major's character, but otherwise it
Wrong
was poor.
franchise. Wrong franchise. This is Rocky. He started off with his dad giving him the opportunity. That's what he was talking about.
Yeah,
During this scene here, where he's invited to his home and talking about like, I want a shot. And, you're gonna become an overnight contender. That just doesn't happen. He's like, that's what happened with Rocky. Like that was
yeah,
it. I think you're in
yeah.
the wrong. I think that's an illegitimate criticism. You should apologize for that ATL blurred.
Nah, that's not gonna happen.
No, I actually agree with him. I think um, the biggest issue with Damian for me in this film is that he's just out of prison. We don't see him get any we don't see him fight. We see him spar a couple of times. He's old as well. Like, this is not Damien from when in his youth. This is Damien, old man Damien. Like, sure, he's got muscles, but like it's not convincing to me that he could stand alone with a dude that was training that who he beat the hell out of in the ring. Like, it's not convincing to me that he could do that to a potential heavyweight champion of the world. Like, this guy was fighting for the about to fight like for the belt, and he's like, get in the ring with this guy. And like, that's, I think it also lends obviously to Creed thinking it's going to be maybe an easy win for his gym, possibly. Like, he's underestimating Damien, but at the same time, Damien is old. Like, he is old. Like, and it's like box. And there's even a line in the movie which I found to be surprising, which was like, uh, you like, oh, you're not like in your prime. Like, they go after Creed for not being in his prime, and even Damien does. I'm like, bro, you're like older than him, like by like 5 or something years. Like, you've got some age on him already. Like, how are you gonna fight? Like, so that's, I kind of wasn't convinced. And like, when we're in this zone of like realistic boxing movies, like Rocky, I think it is a legit criticism because Rocky isn't a realistic um boxing movie to me. Balboa is. Like, Balboa.
Absolutely not. Nope. Mm-mm.
Because like, as I watched the series, because I watched them back to back one year because I'd never seen them, they got like, Rocky 2 is better than Rocky 1. Rocky 4 is like a nice guilty pleasure for me because it's very 80s, and I like 80s type of cheese movies, especially because Drago's awesome in it. Like, but
My
like,
time, my time
yeah,
period.
yeah, it has like some, but like Balboa is the most realistic of the Rocky movies. And so if we're going for realism, I just think that we got enough from Damian to convince us that he's actually a great fighter. Like, if we had saw him do a prison fight, if they had done a flashback when they did that photo, and we saw him beating, like a montage of him just like breaking skulls in prison, I would have been like, okay, this guy's a machine. Like we saw it with Ice-T,
And it would
like
have only took 10 seconds or so.
not Ice-T, Mr. T. Like we saw like a montage of him like being like incredible. Like we in all the Rocky films, we saw like that convincing nature. These guys are machines. They're killers, right? Drago was like the most over the top, but we still saw that he was a machine. You know,
We didn't need him to be a machine. We needed him to be a manipulator. We were trying to show him just, chilling on the car, on the hood of the car, and like, and we're supposed to feel sorry for him. I mean, he wasn't gonna be the monster machine kind of guy. The way he was gonna hurt you was you're on Stephen A. Smith on ESPN, and he's calling in. He's that sort of villain.
but he still has to do the fight at the end. Like he still has to fight.
He's
Like
still got to fight. That's
he has to
true.
back up his words. Yeah, like he's like, I'm gonna get you, and it's just like, okay, but you're older than him. Yeah, exactly. That's the quant. And they're even when they're fighting, the commentator's like, "Oh, I bet you he's maybe thinking retirement now because it would have been way more comfortable." And I'm like, "Bro, this guy has like 5 years on him. Like, why aren't you commentating on his age?" Like, so yeah, that was the thing that was the only thing I think that took me out of this film as a boxing film. Yeah,
I'm gonna give points to the cinematography here. We see what's his name, Diamond Dame from the back, and it just followed him. And that's a cool like visual, I thought.
As I said, for a first-time director, the shot selection that Michael B. Jordan selected was phenomenal for a very first-time inexperienced director. I don't know who his cinematographer is. I don't know, what help he had, but all that aside, he was the one in charge. His name is on the marquee as the director, and my hat's off to him uh, for what he put together on the screen, and especially the fight between the between the two combatants at the end. I had never seen a boxing match like that where the crowd just basically disappeared and it's just them.
yeah. I didn't know we were fast forwarding, but that was like my favorite part of the whole film is when they all disappeared, and that happened. Just before they all disappeared, they were seeing each other as like their younger selves, and then the prison thing came up, and that's what Damian saw as he was beating into him, and then we saw the boxing ring as like the other side for Creed. I really liked that scene. It was really cool. Like that, it all just went quiet. It was really good directing. It was a great like cinematography. Like it was just a great piece of cinema in that part of the movie where it was just them, and then they say, yeah, they're on par.
Right.
The musical score too. Like not just the visuals, but how not just even the music that had, we had Big Sean, we had Dreamville, we had all these recognizable
Nipsey.
voices coming into some of the tracks, but even the instrumentals, the atmospheric sounds that were going on, all matched really well with the visuals throughout. I would say from beginning to end.
The music selection, obviously, yeah, awesome stuff. Even when my boy Felix Guerrero, when he was doing his, I got into it. I thought his entrance was really cool. They put thought into it artistically, but because I heard Mark say he's for it. I heard Paul say he's for it. I'm not against, but I'm like, I don't like the quiet, no one's in the crowd type thing. That wasn't for me.
The
And I
reason why
would,
I like that is because, there have been a lot of boxing movies out there. You have the Rocky franchise, you have Southpaw, you have The Great White Hype, which is a funny movie. If you guys have not seen The Great White Hype, highly
highly
recommend.
recommend. You always say highly recommend before you say you should watch
Yes,
this thing.
highly recommend that you watch The Great White Hype from 1996, 97 with Damian Wayans, Jamie Foxx, and some other Samuel L. Jackson. Very funny film. But that being said, I've seen a lot of boxing movies. You always see a crowd. I appreciate the fact that Michael B. Jordan did something that was very unique, that shows an artistic thought process that says, hey, I'm going to give the people, us, the viewers, something that they've never seen before, and he did it remarkably. So I absolutely liked it.
I think it works for the story because it's really all about them too. There's nothing, it doesn't matter about the fight. It really doesn't matter about the money. And we see that reconciliation at the end in the locker room. Dame, it's not just, he doesn't want to be rich. He's not this big Showtime celebrity that's punching you on the beach anymore in front of a whole crowd of people. it really comes down to these were two kids that used to be friends in their childhood, and now it's just them in the ring. The ring doesn't really even matter. It's everything that they split their ways over the 18 years.
And to piggyback off what Kat just said, when you watch specifically Rocky 4, that was the one with Drogo, right? This was a battle of governments. This was a battle of nations. This was a battle of people. That's why the crowd in those situations was very important. The first fight, against Apollo Creed was here in America. So it was America versus Russia. Then when they go over there, it was the Russians against America. And then Rocky, showing the heart that he did, he convinced or he swayed the Russian audience to be on his side. With this particular movie, as Kat just said, it's about these two former friends battling it out, getting all their angst and, years of bitterness out against each other. So you could only focus on that. It was brilliantly done, to be quite frank.
Well, I
remember,
think I would say I think Damian was fighting because he was clearly he's like, I'm going to take it all from you. Like it was hard watching like from prison you live out my dream, because his dream was to be what Creed was, and he made a mistake. And then and the only reason why Creed is, like didn't pay for the same mistake is because he ran, right? So as Creed was there because of his guilt, right, and Damian was there because of his jealousy. And at the
So are
end, they
you
have
saying that they're just the same?
I'm saying they're the same. They're just two sides of the coin, like the same coin. Like, and I think through tragedy, they like split. And at the end, we have that great scene Katt talked about. I was so glad they did that scene at the end of the film, because he was like, it wasn't on you, man. We were just kids. Like, so Damian like gave like alleviation to Creed's guilt, and Creed gave alleviation to his pride, like to Damian's pride. And it was like they actually kind of, you could see them becoming friends again, because they both like gave each other what they needed all those years, which was like each other's like responses to what happened to them. Yeah. And that's why that whole fight was just like a prelude to that conversation. That's all it was. It was just them
The
getting out
fight
their
was the
aggression.
prelude to the
Yeah,
conversation.
it was a prelude to their conversation. That's like, and it literally was in the movie.
Just had to get it out of their system.
They had to get the angst. Like the commentator says a bunch of times, he's like, "There's so much tension in this in the arena, like all this stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's because they have all these years of built up guilt and built up jealousy that they're working out against each other." Like, yeah. So it's a really cool. I
Best
think
trash talk, best fighting trash talk in a
they
Rocky
did have.
movie.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it was pretty good. Like, I liked when Damian says,
"All right, Donnie, I'll see you in a minute.
I'm gonna be right back."
I really believe they hated each other. That's what made this fight different.
Yeah.
And that's why, okay, I appreciate the differences in the final fight, including what they tried with the lights. I appreciate that they're doing different. They know this is the 8th Rocky movie. Maybe not 8th. 6 Rocky, 3 Creed. 9th movie. Let's move on to the next scene. Oh my goodness, Maryanne Creed. Not even the real mom of Adonis Creed, okay?
Here's what's crazy about this whole situation is that Apollo Creed had other kids with his wife. Adonis is the side kid from his side chick. And at no point in time over the past 3 movies have we seen any of those other kids. Now, I was just getting ready to mention that. There was a 4-issue comic book that came out around the time of Creed 3 that goes into depth about Apollo's other kids, and it's a very good read. It's a very, very good comic book. Highly recommend this as well. That was something that was missing, I want to say, in the whole trilogy, because not everybody reads comic books. Not everybody's going to read comic books. And if you're going to watch a movie, you shouldn't necessarily have to go outside that medium to get more information. So that's another criticism that I have, is that they should have included the family that Apollo had and how
they did include the family.
He's
they got.
He's talking about
not
talking
Apollo.
about Apollo Creed.
Real thing.
Yeah.
Not Adonis. Apollo.
You don't recognize bastards, no?
I actually, so that actually brings up, I said I had only one critique of the film, but my second critique is what she did, where she conveniently was like, here's the letters that I held, and here's also a photo of that guy that was ended up on television, like for beating the hell out of Drogo or whatever. I was like, this feels a little bit like we saved this for the plot, instead of a mother who cares for her son would immediately be like, hey, Damian's back on the picture. Well, here's all the letters he sent. Also, here's the dude that he was in prison with. Like, I feel like a mother would be like, hey, like, especially when she had that conversation with him, when she's like, Damian, and she was super concerned. And then only later does she go, here's a bunch of letters. Here's the picture of him. Like, I was like, this only serves the plot. It doesn't really serve her character very well.
And why would she do that?
Yeah.
I feel like, and then they gave her a stroke, right? Which is sudden. You don't expect a stroke. So if it's like she knew something was coming, if she felt like she'd been sick for a while, that could be a moment where you'd come forward and be like, hey, look, I need to get this off my chest because I might not have much time left. But she did it before she had the stroke, and you don't plan for that. But they could have made something work with that, and they didn't.
Thumbs up and thumbs down to the screen if Maryanne is a villain in this movie. So if she's a villain, you thumbs down. If you're fine with her, you give her a thumbs up. 3, 2, 1, go.
Katt, me and Katt are the same.
She wasn't important enough. She wasn't in the plot enough to be. If anything, what I think was weird is you have Bianca, who's like, you can't solve everything with fights. You gotta like talk about your emotions. And then she's the one at the end that's like, you weren't at fault at all for everything that happened to Damian going to prison. There's a way you can fix this. You have to punch him. Like it just went. It didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that was weird because she was in the middle of the film. She was like, you're going to teach her how to box, like the daughter, right? And he's like, yeah, like I wanted to teach her to defend herself. I'm like, I'm all for this. This is a great idea. Like you should teach your kids to defend themselves. Absolutely. And I had no problem with her punching that kid in the face for just doing a psychopathic thing, like doing that and right in front of her eyes. I'm like, that kid deserved a good like fist to the face. Like I was like, good. When he was defending her, I was like, yes, this is what every father should do for their kid. They have every right to retaliate. Why aren't they getting in trouble for doing like bully things? Like, I mean, this is the exact reaction. And her reaction is, no, she's got problems. Don't let her punch people. Like, this is bad. Like, and then later on, I agree with Katt. Like later on, she's like, you know how you have to fix Damian? You have to get in the ring and punch his face. Like, I'm just like,
well, she wants it for him. She doesn't want it for her kid.
It's just an interesting turn of events. Yeah.
And she gave full. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I just said she did a 180.
She gave him a clean slate too. She's like, it wasn't your fault. You did the right thing by running away, which is kind of like, all right, cool. If you can not get caught up in something, all right, whatever, fine. Maybe ask the prosecutor, for the former prosecutor, what he thinks about that. But it was also like, you're speaking in the confines of your own private home. You can actually open up more. You're not snitching. You're not going to get someone in trouble if you talk about it openly right now. And she just flat out was like, you weren't even a little bit dirty for not thinking about him for 18 years. Like, not at all. She didn't give him any accountability for the scorn.
Yeah. And it could very easily been the other way. Paul was talking about this a moment ago and how, their lives took divergent paths where it could have very easily have been Adonis caught up in that. And, far too often doing what I do, you see people who are, quote unquote, good people hanging around the quote unquote wrong crowd, and that's the situation that Adonis found him in. So he could have been the one behind bars for 18 years, and it could have been Jonathan Major's character who was out there living the life. But going back to Felicia Rashad's character, Chill asked if she was a villain. I'm not going to put her in villain, but I do not agree with her keeping that information from Adonis. That made no sense. And number two, that's not even his real mom, right? Why did she have such a close relationship with her side dude, her husband's side baby? I don't understand that. I know it has happened, especially in the Black community at times, but why would she be that close with this side kid? I know he needed a mother figure, et cetera, but the forgiveness that she showed was something amazing.
So she loves, this is about the first movie, honestly, but she loved her husband so much that a product of her husband reminded her of her husband, and therefore I automatically love you. That makes sense to me.
But she also had her own kids, none of whom we ever saw in 3 films. So to me, it seems that she would focus all her love on the kids who lost their father in the ring.
So we never saw Sylvester Stallone either, and this came up during that funeral. Here, he was missing. I felt it. So the way Paul just moaned right now, do you know why Sly wasn't part of this?
There was all these different videos that come up with him talking about it, but I didn't watch any of them. But I was like, it could be Stallone just bitching. But I was like, he didn't. I feel like he was his mentor, right? He trained him. I was like, wouldn't he turn to him in this particular crisis, like, and be like, hey, like, ring him up, at least call him if he's out of the country or whatever? Like, wouldn't he just call him and be like, hey, like, this is happening. You've seen this on television. What should I do? Like, because this, I agree. It is ATL blurred. Is that ATL blurred? Like, I agree with you. Like, this has homages to Rocky 4 and Rocky 3. Like this whole he's unbeatable, or like this whole like he's destroyed my friend, or whatever it is. It's like it's got homages to these movies. I just feel like Rocky has gone through these particular situations and he knows this. Wouldn't he reach out to his mentor, his trainer, and be like, hey, like, what should I do in this situation? Like, why would you?
Rocky was Adonis's surrogate father.
Yeah.
And so why would his surrogate father, who loved Apollo like a brother, not be there when his brother's wife, in essence, his sister-in-law, died?
So all these studio differences, you guys needed to figure it out just for that one scene. Hey, I'll be there for you. Or it doesn't even got to be Sylvester. A guy who has the body of Sylvester, and we just see from behind saying, put a hand on a shoulder or something. I needed that.
Well, it would have to be Sylvester Stallone, because
it should be so.
There would be no Rocky without, literally, there would be no Rocky without Sylvester Stallone, since he wrote.
There's no Creed without Sylvester Stallone.
Right.
Like, he's the one that made the first film.
Fine.
Like,
I think we're all anti-studio. I'm just mean to say it needs to be the character needed to be there for this scene, or else don't kill the character. Don't kill Maryanne.
Correct.
In the club, he gets a photo with is it Ivan Drago or is it Victor Drago? Victor, right?
Victor.
Victor's on the right. He was the villain in the second, or the antagonist in the second movie. And there's a big shot. Hey, we're gonna have this fight. He's now a promoter, which is really cool. But over there on the side watching is Diamond Dame Anderson, manipulating from the side, talking to Bianca. Bianca just like, hey, what's going on? Hey, good to see you. And she's all happy. And yeah, like I said, he gives the seeds of the Leon. Was it Leon Katt? Leon, right?
Yeah, the name drop was Leon.
The name drop of Leon. What did you give your opinion on that? What did you think of the Leon name drop? You thought that was deliberate, yeah?
Yeah, I thought it was deliberate. I peeped that while it was happening. Like, we already got a hint that, Kehlani is performing the song, and Dame's just like, oh, that's gotta suck to see someone else living out your dream, huh? Like, and Tess doesn't understand that there's, it's empathy, not sympathy. He's saying it that way because he relates to it, and he has a very specific example of why he relates to it. Tess, I keep calling her Tess. Bianca does not realize that. Bianca's just like, yeah, that is how I'm feeling. So she kind of misses it, but she gets that curiosity about Leon because it's like, there's something about my husband that I don't know, that I need to ask him about. It was just that woman thing kicking in, that some detail about my partner I don't know. She missed all the stuff that was written right on Dame's face, if you ask me. I think it was written that way. I think that was part of the...
Oh, yeah, it was him absolutely manipulating her, but also, like, it was showing the audience what he's about. He's like, he says it on the beach later, but he says it for like Creed's, like, to tell Creed what he's doing. But we all know from that moment in the scene, we know what he's after. Like, we know that he wants Creed's life.
He wants that championship there, and that's how he manipulated his way into the title fight facing Felix when he. So Ivan Drago, dude on the right side, gets his hand injured and smashed into the fight. Is a rookie contender who, it'd be a good story. They sell out the Los Angeles Staples Center or Crypto Center. What's the crypto.com?
They say crypto. They drop crypto or whatever, and I'm like, is this a product placement? That's what my mind went to.
It was COVID times. Any extra way they can make some extra income, they got to do it.
But can I just ask a question? This was to the heavyweight champion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy did not look like a heavyweight.
No.
He does not look at him. He does not look like a heavyweight. Damian looks like a heavyweight. Look at that dude. He is built. Like, this guy looks like he's a midweight. Like,
he's the DEI heavyweight?
Yeah, he is not a heavyweight.
Heavyweights. I don't know. I think the heavyweights start at like around 200, 205. When Muhammad Ali, or Cassius Clay at the time, first won his championship, he was around 2013, 2000. He was around 213, 215 pounds. Mike Tyson
2,000 pounds.
won
Yeah.
at 20 years old. He was around 216 pounds. That's how much I weigh right now, and I don't feel like I'm a damn heavyweight. You know, those dudes were absolute beasts. They were absolute monsters. But
If
so
you
looking at that guy, he may very well be 200 pounds, but he does not have the physique that Jonathan Majors does.
if you look at, like, his name's Jose Benavides, that's the actor. If you look him up on Wikipedia, he's a light welterweight, like a light middleweight. There's no
So like
heavyweight here.
125, 180.
Yeah, that's. He's an actual fighter. He doesn't look like a heavyweight champ. Like, he doesn't look like it in the movie. But then when we look at his actual weight here, he's a middleweight. Like, he's classified as a middleweight. So that's what I guess that also took me out of the movie, especially seeing him on that previous screen that you showed earlier, where it's got like him and Damian. Like, look at the weight difference between them, even muscle mass.
That's a good find. Well, he was the sparring partner of Damon in the gym, right? And the only sparring partner that survived because he was knocking them all out. This is something that they call back to in the boxing ring, back in like the gym. He was doing these dirty shots, going for the chakra network and getting him where the joints connect. And he did it in the actual fight. Dude complained about
he
it to the ref.
cheated so hard, like the
was such a
knees. Doing the knees, yeah, he was cheating. When he did the knees and stuff, he's like, "Are you seeing this, ref?" And then old mate comes along and he's like, "Just let me worry about the ref." And I'm like, "How about you worry about the ref then, mate?" Like, you literally, we could see him kneeing him in like in the quads and everything. Like, he put two knees into him, like, directly. Yeah.
And the media didn't really touch on it. I don't feel like the media brought attention to it. So maybe the live it was Mauro Ronaldo doing the play-by-play. If Mauro Ronaldo didn't notice it, that's fine. But when I see Stephen A, I want to see that everyone is talking about how dirty he is, and he needs that reputation. They could have capitalized.
That's definitely missing, because when you see a fight, the fight could be fair, but you're going to have these commentators that come out and their favorite was the one that lost. So, like, think about it in real life when Charlo beat Benavidez back in November. You know, there were commentators that wanted Benavidez to win that were going to say no matter what happened in that fight, they're going to hint that something was dirty. So if something actually was dirty, you're definitely going to see it called out by these commentators.
And they didn't call it out. They just let the fight happen. Dude was bleeding and everything. Or fake blood, because we're on YouTube, right? That's proper blood, everybody. That's just...
It's ketchup.
Ketchup.
Well, and do you think...
To piggyback off what Paul was saying, though, about how he looks, the actor Jose Benavidez, his highest weight class in boxing was welterweight. A welterweight, the weight of a welterweight is 140 to 147 pounds. I haven't weighed that since I was like 25. So he is a tiny, tiny man. So to go up against a heavyweight, it seems like they should have perhaps gone with somebody else who is actually an actual heavyweight boxer in that regard. I'm not saying you put Lennox Lewis on the screen, but, you know, get somebody with some heft to him.
It was okay when they were doing the sparring. He had a hoodie and stuff on, so you couldn't really see that mass. But when they came to each other in the ring for the fight, it was clear who was going to kick the crap out of the other person. Like, the dude was like taller than him. He was his bicep was like the size of his head almost. Like, it was like, I was like, he punches you, you're gonna feel that. Like, whereas this guy is gonna be like ding and bounce off his like muscles on his pectorals. Like, I just didn't believe that to be like a fair fight at all. And like, Creed looked, and to be fair as well to the script, I guess, to cast him in that role, Creed looked like an idiot putting Damian in the ring with him. Like he's like, oh, he'll be an easy match, or like he'll be like he looked like an idiot. Like, because you're putting this humongous guy in the ring with this guy who isn't even a heavyweight in real life. Like, it's like it didn't flow to the smarts of.
Well, let me just say
Creed.
this, although I understand that criticism, you also have to look at it from Adonis's point of view. Okay, here we have a actual professional fighter who has been training, who has been in fights over the past 3, 5, 10 years, and you got this guy straight out of prison. Now he may be bigger, but he doesn't have the skill of this other dude. So in that regard, it's a quote unquote even matchup, so to speak. So that may be what he was thinking.
During the Showtime kind of snippet, Dame says, I was the amateur of the year back in high school or something like that. He had credentials.
That's kind of like Al Bundy saying he threw for 4 touchdowns when he was in high school. Nobody cares what he did when Clinton was in the White House, right? What has he done over the past couple of years? We know that he had skills back then, but he's been on a shelf for 18 years, so that's different.
Speaking
I
of that
actually,
scene,
well, the Duke actually, like, because I think there's credence to what you said, but then they had the sparring and Damian lost control, right? And started trying to hurt him because he taunted him, right? And he started as an old man. He's like, old man, keeps calling him old man, which he is old. And so he's like, then he got angry and he starts trying to hurt him. And then Duke actually says to him, this is not a good idea. This is not a good idea, Creed. Like this is bad. What he is bad. But Creed doesn't listen to him. So to be fair, I think there is credence to Creed being a little bit arrogant and not listening to someone who is wiser, who's seen a lot more fights than him, who was training people when he was a kid. We saw it at the start of the film. I just think, Creed either was ignorant or arrogant to put Damian. Damian. Yeah, he was absolutely arrogant. I think that's what is about. That's why I think it lends credence again to other Rocky films where Rocky was super. Apollo was super arrogant, and he got in the ring with Drogo, and he got killed. Like, I think I think there's definitely writing like drawing from these different Rocky adventures, let's say, like to formulate these other characters that we're seeing here. We're telling a similar story just in a different way.
There's a saying, pride cometh before the fall. And we saw that with Apollo when he died. We saw that now with Adonis. He's literally following in his father's footsteps.
I clicked on that button at a great time. You can't lie. Like I knew what you were gonna say, and I'm like, he's following in his father's footsteps as it goes on screen. I'm such a good director over here.
And also, R.I.P. to Carl Weathers, man. He was a relatively young old man. He just died a month or so ago. R.I.P. to him. He was an absolute legend.
He's a great actor.
Yeah. And he was becoming a very good director over in the Star Wars property because he directed several episodes of The Mandalorian. So
yeah,
and
76.
who knew that he was going to be a good comedic actor when he was in Happy Gilmore? Like Carl Weathers was that dude. R.I.P. to him.
This scene here, okay. This is where everything clicks. So after the fight, after my boy loses the fight, let me show you those letters that I've been collecting. They're right here. Adonis didn't really like that from his mom. I didn't either. He meets him up on the beach scene. The aforementioned beach scene. Amazing acting here. He even gets off a punch.
Hey, no threats here, bro.
On Adonis, and Adonis is looking around like, well, what am I gonna do? Like everyone around you you're surrounded by all these dudes. It's pretty dark, but you can tell the heavyweight championship is over the shoulder of the what's it, protection friend? What is he?
He's the guy that's like comes along and talks to him when he's sitting in the corner of the ring. That dude that's holding the belt, I'm pretty sure. He's got the same beanie on.
That's it. Yeah, his coach. He's got the beanie. Like they're surrounding Adonis. Best scene of the movie. This is where everything clicked, and this is where I go, okay, I'm not sympathetic to Dame anymore. I was, and he played it off like an innocent kind of guy. Even when he's doing interviews, he was seeming like a guy who's like this is a great opportunity type thing. And then I'm like, nope, not at all. You orchestrated this. That is your friend, this dude here, who is the one responsible for breaking Victor Drago's. You are just woof. I want nothing to do with you, Diamond Dame. I actually, even at the end of the movie, after their fight, I was still mad at Diamond Dame. Katt.
I feel like they could have. That's really where, as a director, as a screenplay writer, I feel like that's the part they could have brought out a little bit more. Because I really do think at first, Dame says, well, in prison, you're just a number. So then he gets out, he gets back with his friend. They're clearly still in the same intuitive, they jive together. They're opening their straw the same way, like you were showing earlier.
Yeah.
But Adonis doesn't have faith in his friend. His friend's like, I just want to fight. Give me a fight, bro. And the guy doesn't believe in him. His friend doesn't believe in him. So he's starting to feel just like he felt like he in prison. He's at someone else's mercy. He's still just a number to his former best friend, his childhood brother. So if they could have hashed that out a little bit more, I really think it was a scenario where the scorn, it plateaued while he was in prison. When he got out, he thought it was going to relieve itself, but then it shot way up because he's here and now, and the friend is just like, nah, man, I have it all, but I'm not going to do anything for you because I don't believe in you. Not because I'm not willing to do anything, but because I don't believe in you. And they left that really, in my opinion, underdeveloped.
Still, it was developed enough to know he was bad, and Amara should not have been present at the fight where Adonis was facing Dame. She met Dame, right? I don't like that. And she was at the first fight, and she wait, the deaf girl, Amara, that's her name. Did she get like upset at the first fight of the movie where Dame?
He started getting the crap kicked out of him. Damian was like almost killing him basically, and then she's like, I'm gonna take her. Bianca's like, I'm gonna take her. I'm like, why is there a child at a boxing match in the first place? Like,
hey, that's fine for the first one. Maybe that was her first time there. Maybe
all the time. Yeah,
but why did she come to the second fight then?
I'm like, you want to? Yeah, I think that's like, okay, cool. Then she'll be used to this sort of behavior. Why is she shielding her when like the so-called champion starts to lose and get the crap kicked out? I'm like, what do you think a boxing match is? These people hit each other to hurt each other until one of them's knocked out, or they lose by default because of the points scored on body hits and head hits. Like, they're out to hurt each other. These people, like, if you don't want to expose a child to it, why is she even there? Like,
Okay, yeah. This is the part where we do another thumbs up vote, okay? Because I'm looking at the two parents. It was Bianca's choice to bring her daughter to the second fight. Like, we didn't just see what happened. Give a thumbs up for Bianca or a thumbs down to Bianca, depending on whether or not you believe she is the better parent. So we're voting on Bianca in 3, 2, 1. Yes, it's unanimous. That's what I'm talking about.
Unanimous decision. Yeah.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have no problem if she brought like Amara there to the fight and then she was sitting there the whole time and she was cool. Like, because it's like, okay, she's experienced many fights. She's seen a lot of fights on television. Cool. She's exposed to this violence already. But when you're like, I'm going to shield my child's eyes from this battle that's happening. I'm like, what did you expect to happen at the end of this thing?
Right.
They're going to knock each other out. There's going to be blood. What are you expecting the child to see in a boxing match? Like,
it's like putting on Debbie Does Dallas on family movie night. And then when the explicit scenes come on, you cover your child's eyes.
You cover your child's eyes. It's just about the movie, the storyline.
And then rewind it and then play it again.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go to another fight and let's see your daddy get beaten up. Like what did she? Yeah, it was a little bit interesting to me. And this is the same one that's like, don't teach her boxing. And I'm like, her dad's whole career is boxing. This is weird. Like, why are you saying don't teach her how to box? Shouldn't she effectively know how to fight rather than get into fight? Like, his argument for teaching her boxing is like the most logically consistent argument I've heard. Like, in the whole movie for like how to defend herself. Like, I wanted to be in a place where and he asks her a question. He's like, Bianca, do you want her to be in a place where she can defend herself? I'm like, this guy's a world champion. He should teach her how to box. Like, if anybody should teach his kid how to box, it's him.
And if you read the comic, like me and Mark, like me and ATL Blurred read the comic book, Adonis is Creed's legitimate daughter. She was like the #1 female boxer that's ever happened. It's in your family. Of course, the daughter is just going to have that naturally in her. And you as the mother needs to recognize that. Daddy gets the award for best parent in this movie. I don't even care if he needs to get reminded how to speak in a sign language and whatnot.
Right.
I actually think, I think Tess, I think her acting was really great for certain emotions. But when it came to that whole part where she has to be she started speaking with it was a lot of dialogue for her, and she was speaking with like a breathy voice, and it was when she was trying to be relatable and have a heart to heart with Adonis. I felt like it, maybe the screenwriting too, maybe it wasn't all on her, but the dialogue and the way it was delivered just really fell flat, and it was drawn out, and I was listening to it like, all right, Bianca,
This wasn't
let's
her
move it
movie.
along. And it didn't, she was fine when she was reacting to, I don't like the way you're parenting, or I'm frustrated. All of those emotions were great from her. But in this moment, which is really pivotal, because it's supposed to show she has this awakening. Oh, now I understand why my husband, if I'm criticizing my daughter for dealing with things, and I just found out he did this thing in his past where he was pounding someone against the sidewalk. I need to show him some empathy for what he went through and how he got here. And he's restrained himself this whole time I've known him. Yet, an hour ago in the movie, I was criticizing him as if he didn't know how to handle anything with words or discernment. I treated him like a brute. In contrast to his friend Dame, who's actually coming out here fighting dirty. And it's like she didn't really deliver that whole moment of enlightenment in that scene. I was just waiting for it to end. So.
This goes without saying, but I appreciate the physiques of these guys going in the gym and putting their bodies through the ringer, looking exquisite, just like every other actor in this franchise has, from Mr. T. I guess Hulk Hogan kind of counts. Sylvester Stallone. Every time we see someone in that ring, they're peak physical conditioning.
Sylvester Stallone after the first movie, because in the first movie, he looked like he just walked in off the street, had no type of training whatsoever. But as the series went on, especially by number 4, he was an absolute unit. But yeah, you're right.
Balboa,
I'm
he was a
surprised like
unit.
all three of us are more interested in nodding our heads at this, and Katt's just like, oh yeah, I suppose the cardiovascularity was of appropriate.
No, I appreciated the training montage because I feel like that's what he actually did too. Like, I feel like Michael B. Jordan was actually doing that to get the body that he had at the
They were
end of that
pulling
film.
airplanes.
Yeah, well, running through the ice as well. Like, I would have
There was
liked
a
to see where
callback where he
running
was
through the
fighting
ice.
against the mirror in the first movie.
Yes,
Rocky was telling him, "I'm gonna leave
yeah,
you two alone over there," as he was fighting the reflection.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
when I saw him against the mirror, I said, okay.
So
I
here's the
do
question
agree
that I
with.
have.
I just wanted to quickly comment on what Katt said. I do agree with her. I think the scene you're talking about is when after the funeral, where she's sitting down with her, and like it's this long scene of her basically just saying, "Go fight him." Like that's basically what that's what that whole scene is. It's like you should just go fight him, but it was all just.
It could have been as simple as, I get why you're like that with what's the daughter's name? I get why you're like that with our daughter. One line could have put some congruence between the daughter being there for the second fight and the mom being there with the daughter, supporting the fight and wanting Adonis to win. One line.
Here's the question that I have. Of the Rocky franchise, what is the best training montage? For me, it is in Rocky 4 before the second fight.
Really, when is that the ice running and like when he's like, at the top of the mountain? Yeah, I mean, there's 80s cheese to that, and I love that film a lot.
Come on now, fill it with the cheese now. That's my time.
I love the 80s. I love the 80s action, like the things. That's what like has a special place in my heart. But I have to tell you, the greatest training montage is 2, when he's running on the beach with Apollo and Apollo's actually training him to be a boxer. Like before then, Rocky's not a boxer. He's just a dude that gets in fights. Whereas Apollo trains him to become a boxer. His previous adversary trains him how to become a boxer. And this is what informs Creed 1. Like this is why Rocky comes and trains Adonis. Like this is the idea behind it. It's like that's that linkage there, is that Apollo trains him to be an actual boxer, not just a fighter that will take hits to the face like he did in number 1. Like where he's just like, I'm just going to stand here and be like a mullet to like your fists, and then eventually I'll win by just outlasting you. Like that's what Rocky 1 is. Down. Like yeah, without falling, I'm not going to fall down. Like that's the only reason why Rocky wins, because he tires him out. But like Rocky 2 is actually a training, and I love that scene where he's training him because he's just like, you got to be a better fighter. Like, and he's getting into him and he's making Rocky like angry. Like he's just like, you've got to train hard, and he's running on and at the end they have that brotherly
three,
like
though,
hug
wasn't
that they made it, you know, at the end of that training montage. Is that
But
that's
wasn't
two?
that 3 before he fought
Is that
Clever Lane?
three?
Yeah,
Is it
because
three?
number 2, it was Apollo and Rocky fighting in 1 and 2.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think
Oh yeah,
Apollo
no, you're right. It's three.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's three. Yeah. Yeah, that's my favorite because then they do that big run on the beach at the
Right.
end. And then they're like, yeah, like they're like
Yes.
celebrating together, and it's like cool. They're like friends.
When
I
they're
like
wearing
that.
their short shorts and their
Yeah,
yeah, that was great.
a little
That
bit
was
of
before the Clever
80s, a
Lane
little
fight.
bit of 80s in that. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Like
The Creed franchise have their own little, I don't know, themes also that they continued from Rocky. But this one thing that made them separate was, what's the right way to put this? It's more ground level, I would say. It's more ground level where even the slang people would try to use, like when Bianca would call things a John, that's like
That's
Philadelphia.
that's Philly.
That's that
Yeah.
Philadelphia talk.
Yes, that's
So
absolutely Philadelphia.
I saw Canelo Alvarez at the fight, and I don't think during the Rocky franchise like those 6 movies they really capitalized on more reality stuff. I think.
I can't say that I saw any actual boxers in any of the original Rocky
Yeah,
movies from the 70s and 80s, but that is something that you would see in the Creed franchise. Yeah. Because you would think, back in the 70s or 80s, you would see like Muhammad Ali or Joe Frazier or Ken Norton and people like that in the crowd watching or commentating.
at least
The
by the
new
second movie, at least by the sequel or the third or the fourth or the fifth, right?
Definitely
But
not
no,
the 3rd or the 4th one. Yeah.
you're not going to recognize the fifth.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never seen the 5th.
Okay,
I've
yeah.
never seen that one.
So, Mark, give me your commentary on this fight. It took place. I guess we already talked a lot about it. We talked about the lights and stuff, but and the trash talking. What else can we talk about? What else can we bring up?
I think that it showed 2 warriors who, at one point they absolutely loved each other, but then over the intervening 18 years, due to life and circumstances that was beyond both of their controls, it drove a wedge into their friendship. And, like one of the other 2 panelists said, that I think it was Katt, who basically said that they had to get that fight out of their system before they could make up, you know? A lot of times you just want to yell and scream at somebody just to get all these pent up feelings and emotions out. But instead of yelling and screaming, they use their fists to basically pound away 18 years of jealousy, 18 years of guilt, 18 years of, you know, just them not being together the way they should have been because they should have been on this rise together, you know?
I like that move. I like when he dekes and he likes,
he
I'll play
taunts him.
bait just so I can
Yeah,
get
he
you.
taunts
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
And then slow motion was utilized here, which kind of was different from the Rockies. Again, I appreciate, yeah, Amara, like I said.
But you can
Yeah, just sitting there watching her dad get
Mhm.
beat up. Good times.
but
Cat.
here's what's crazy, as I said a moment ago, boxers have their children at fights all the time, and I don't know how healthy that really is. You're seeing your dad get his tail beat and end up losing. I'm sure that's very emotional, so there should be an age limit on viewing something like that live. But that aside, going back to the fight, once again saying how well choreographed it is. I'm gonna have to put in my uh, cord here in a second, so I'm gonna sign off for just 1 second while I get my cord because I'm about to lose juice.
Mm-hmm. Katarina.
Oh, I was just gonna say it was 2 points ago. The realism, like the real faces, Stephen A. Smith. You had, the different broadcasters. You had the ring announcers because David Diamante was in there. You had the appearances. We talked about Canelo, but we also wasn't Terrence Crawford he showed up as a sparring partner. So you have these familiar faces, and I really think that comes down to maybe a production studio call. They're more willing to work with other studios. But at the same time, I'm going to go back to the COVID thing. This was being produced during COVID times. I really do think people took interest in these pay-per-view style, even though people probably bootlegging it, right? They're using like crack streams or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was an excuse to have a party at someone's house, a watch party for a fight. People got into fights over between 2020 and 2023 because it was just an excuse to get a bunch of people together on a Saturday night. honestly, not just boxing, but MMA too. So I think it was easy to get all these people in. Everyone's money mindset. Let's jump in this movie together. You know, your money when you're a boxer, when you're a fighter, isn't just the money you make when you're in the ring. So
So we get to the final blow of the fight where Diamond Dame Anderson is knocked loopy. And this was in slow motion, and this is not a stunt double, and this was just a guy falling down. So we got to appreciate the actors for their commitment. I know Michael B took a real punch in the first movie, and this is totally real also, where he just goes down for the count. You see the loogie coming out of his mouth. Blech.
I just realized it's a powerful pose too, because you know you have the all white, the all black, then you have the look at the light in the corner top right behind Adonis. It's really like it looks like it's shining down towards Adonis.
Yeah.
And you know they do that. That's like the Simba Mufasa trope, right? You know, Mufasa is or Simba and Mufasa are always in the light colors, and then Scar is in the dark, shadowy area because he's the villain. So
That's what the jury thought at his trial.
yeah.
Um, Yeah. The arena. So Dodger Stadium. That's cool. They mentioned something earlier. I should have probably brought this up, but Dame was like, "Man, you finally went to Africa, huh? You finally had that fight in Africa," and that was cool to know that they're international. Yeah, the two main fights happened in LA, but that first fight that they began with when he was still active, so it was like 3 years ago. That fight took place in somewhere in Africa. Where was it? Was it in Kenya? I should know. Mark, do you remember where the first fight was? The African fight where he was fighting a dude from England?
No, I
Uh,
don't. I don't remember.
I want to give them points for doing that and recognizing that this is an international sport and there's value and there's fans and there's I don't know, boxing can go anywhere, including baseball stadiums, which probably hasn't happened in years. You
And
sound like a
probably
boxing fan. Do you know where the last time they fought in a boxing match happened at a baseball stadium?
I can't even say. But they probably did the African fight as an homage to the Rumble in the Jungle
Yeah,
when Muhammad Ali fought
Foreman.
George Foreman.
There was a ticket there. There was like one of the like memorabilia that was part of the letters. Like it was one of those kind of collector things. Yeah, yeah. That's the fight. That's the final fight. At the end of the movie, Amara is chilling, and you're like, if they do a Creed 4, will it have his daughter instead of him? Because look, he's been retired for 3 years now, and yeah, he came back for the title. What comes next? If there's a mistake that they made with the franchise, it's having him retire at the beginning of the third movie. I would have waited for something like that in the fourth movie. Paul says, yeah, Cat. Did you watch the first two, didn't you?
Yep.
Ah, okay. So as
And
a new,
there's only some stuff that like I feel like I had to piece together, but it really didn't seem like it was established that he was successful, he's a champion. Like what else do I need to know going into it?
yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, and that's what I thought also. Um, Best actor in the movie, Jonathan Majors.
Yeah. He acted within his role. It was like frame narrative. So
Glyndor, what do you think about it? Best actor. You can give it to the
Best
daughter.
actor in the movie.
I know you're going to give it to the daughter because you don't like to be the same. You like to be like a little bit out of the box.
I'm not Cole.
And so we paused this review because I did ask Cole Paul. He says Majors wasn't the biggest fan of Michael B's portrayal and acting in the third. Zorino said it best with his critiques. Both were the best parts of it, but Majors carried it, as he usually did in each film.
Jonathan was a good actor in this role. I think that he did his thing. I don't like child actors usually, so I think that the girl that played Amara did a really good job. Especially, I don't know if she's actually deaf, but that was
I think
really
she is. I think she is.
yeah,
Yes.
that was really cool. Like I appreciate that. So yeah, I'd say Jonathan Majors was no, I think Michael B. Jordan outmatched him. And there's some scenes that I'll say they did. The beach scene was really good. When he punched him and he was on the ground.
He's like, "You'll be all right."
It wasn't that he was like, "Oh, what do I do with all these people around here?" You saw in his face, I saw in his face this conflict of like, do I get up and beat the crap out of this guy here and now, or do I walk away and it's better for me? Like you could see the control on his face of like pulling back the anger. and like walking away for another time. And I think that was a really actually telling scene of how far he had grown as a person, is that he was willing to walk away. Damian was taunting him to fight him right there. Like he wanted to fight him on his turf, right? But what actually happened is Creed got Damian to fight him on his turf, like, which was the ring. That was always Creed's turf, like, was the ring. Like, even when he phoned in to challenge him on live television,
Yeah, he said this
that
is
was
not
still,
what we do.
yeah, this is not what we do. And then he forced him into a position. Creed's like, okay, let's fight. Let's go. I'll challenge you for the championship on my turf. Like, so that, like, he took the control back in that moment. Like, for me in the movie, like, that's what his character was. So, yeah, I think.
So you give the
at the end,
MVP to the wrong actor. It's
was.
fine. We don't all have to be right.
I think Jonathan
Next.
Majors was just doing Jonathan Majors. To be honest, he kind of reminded me of how
What the hell does
he
that
acted.
mean? After March 25th of 2023, you
I'm
saying
gonna
that?
say Majors seemed. I don't care about his personal life. That's not what I'm referencing. I'm talking about, like, he seemed like, when I watched Ant-Man Quantumania, there were parts of Jonathan Majors parts of Kang that I saw in this role. Like, he kind of was acting the same bravado, the same, oh, I'm just a humble dude that got lost here in the quantum realm.
Hey,
It was the same.
similar characters. What about that?
It's not, I'm just saying, like, it was very similar acting. Like, so I can't give him the MVP. Like, I feel like Michael B. Jordan had more to do in this. Like, he had more to do. He had to deal with guilt. He had to deal with walking away when it was the right time. He had to deal with challenging. He had to deal with the training. He had to deal with, like, being 3 years retired, which, by the way, just going back to a point that ATL Burt and I both made earlier, like, that Damian was old. We didn't get any scenes of him actually training to do this fight, whereas we actually got the work from Michael B. Jordan and Creed to be a championship fighter. Like, we saw him build the body mass in the training montage. We saw him become better physically in the training montage. We never got that from, like, Damian's character, which I think is a
it's
mistake.
Adonis's story still.
It's true.
That's like in line with, like, really all the Rockies too.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, it's always the underdog. Yeah.
Right. Here's a question that I have for Paul. Do you think or feel that Jonathan Majors actually is a good actor? Let me start there.
What the hell?
Oh, no, I think he's a good actor. I just think some actors only have one note to play. When they play sorrow, they play it the same way in every movie. When they play guilt, they play it the same way in every movie. Like, another example of this is, I'm trying to think of his name. There's, like, well, William Dafoe. Like, he's like a great actor, but he plays insanity the same way. Like, he's the same as he is as Green Goblin as he is in Boondock Saints, when he's like, there was a gunfight. Like, it's the same William Dafoe being crazy. Like, we know what we're going to get. It's like, it's the same. Like, so we know William Dafoe, when we see him cast in a role, we're like, oh, we're going to get something with him doing something, crazy, right? Like, with his smile and all the rest of it. So I feel like that's the same with Jonathan Majors. I haven't seen him in a lot of things, but what I have seen him in, he plays the character of, oh, I'm just a lost soul. Like, when he talks to him beside the car, it's the same as when he's talking to Janet, but, like, next to his ship, like in Quantumania.
That's why I asked that question, because perhaps those two characters are more similar than we would have thought. And I would suggest there are a couple of movies out there. Number one, The Last Black Man in San Francisco, and The Harder They Fall, which was a Netflix show.
Hey, Katt, more homework.
I'm sorry?
More homework, because that's the next review we're going to do.
Right. But but Paul's point is very extremely well taken. But perhaps those two characters are more similar in nature than we would have thought. But to see a fuller range of Jonathan's acting ability, I would suggest those other two movies. And talking about a flat actor, when you say something like that, I think of John David Washington. He's my Morehouse brother and all. That dude is not a good actor right now. He may eventually get better. Like Will Smith, when he first started, he was not a good actor. He basically played himself, but over the intervening 30 years, he became great and is an Oscar winner, you know? Um, but yeah, but Jonathan Majors is that dude on the screen to me. But I do understand what you're saying.
Thank you for all joining. Actually, no one else answered the question about the MVP. Can we just quickly just address that? MVP, Katt, who did you like? Your main actor MVP?
I respect what Glyndor was saying. Like, it actually made me like reevaluate a little bit. But I'm still gonna say Jonathan Majors. But that's also because I haven't seen other movies, like really that Michael B. Jordan's in either. So I'm a blank slate on most of this acting cast. Like, I think
Boom.
I know the boxing personalities more than I know the actual actors. So maybe my opinion on that will change. Maybe I'll see exactly what Glyndor's talking about when I see other movies, other roles.
Listen, you want to hit me up later on? I have a whole
A
list of
list.
movies that you can watch to see these other individuals' talents, and I think it's pretty clear that my MVP for this movie, Jonathan Majors, let me just say, was phenomenal. But I didn't mean that. Well, I did mean that. Jonathan Majors is my MVP, although Michael B. Jordan was also phenomenal. But I would give the edge to Jonathan Majors because I think he is one of the best talents currently on screen right now.
Yeah. Who's your MVPs? Let us know in the comment section. When I say let us know, I'm the only one who'll get a notification because it's my YouTube channel. If you guys
I'll
want to
come
come over,
lurk.
you can visit. Shoot. Thanks again. Appreciate you guys all. Look, an hour and 8 minutes. Just that's about how long I usually go, right? Creed 3, check us out. We're all in the description if you want to follow us. Bye.
Good combo, guys. See you.